at 11. Turning to matters of constitutional affairs now. We may need to ask the people. We may need to ask the people. That's the word from the Justice and Constitutional Affairs Minister Delroy Chuck when asked what move the government is likely to make if talks with the opposition about constitutional reform fail again to achieve consensus. Minister Chuck was speaking yesterday on Nationwide at 5, and he made it clear that they may have to go to a referendum if the opposition and the government cannot come to a consensus on how to advance the process, and especially the major sticking point of whether the Privy Council should remain the last court, the what they call it, there's a term they use, the apex court, yes? The final arbiter, or should we adopt the CCJ? Here's Ruby Ann Williams' report on that.
Jamaica's transition to a republic has faced several setbacks. The opposition PNP withdrew from the Constitutional Reform Committee earlier this year after party leader Mark Golding criticized Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness for not stating his position on the country's final court of appeal. Following the September 3 general elections, Prime Minister Holness invited Mr. Golding to have a one-on-one dialogue on constitutional matters. The invitation follows Golding's rejection of an earlier letter which directed him to liaise with Minister Chuck instead. Minister Chuck says progress can only be made if both sides agree to move forward on areas where consensus already exists. He adds that if the opposition remains unwilling to compromise, the government may have to put the matter to the Jamaican people through a non-binding referendum.
Within the wider society, there are many, many possibilities. The Prime Minister, in his debate, said he himself favors a final appellate court, which is in Jamaica. Let us take this head of state out of the reform at the moment, because we have an agreement on that. Let us move then to the other areas, including the Caribbean Court of Justice as a priority, to see if we can get some agreement. And if we don't have an agreement, then we might well have to put it to the people. I don't think it's fair to see that the opposition can force us to accept what we don't agree with.
Minister Chuck also confirmed that no date has yet been set for preliminary talks between himself and Golding.
I haven't heard from Mr. Golding. I wrote him on the 2nd of October. Prime Minister wrote him before, and I've since written him again. I haven't heard from him. Even in the bill now before Parliament to have the Jamaican as head of state and to remove to a Republican status, Mr. Golding had a problem with that legislation. Let us agree that we can move forward with this legislation. And as the government has said, the next stage will look at other constitutional changes.
Ruby Ann Williams for Nationwide News.
Thank you, Ruby. So, where that issue is concerned of the final court, yes? Politics again. Politics again. The supremacy of the political imperative to have a win so you can boast and say, yeah, we did this. And the opposition leader, Mr. Golding, some time ago on his feet in the House of Representatives, had commended to the government that they agree on who the head of state should be. Let us proceed on that. And then he backtracked on that and said no. He twinned that with a demand for a decision on what should be the final court. And that is a strong sentiment in the opposition for years, for decades, and in the country. Yeah? And the Jamaica Labour Party has been very reluctant to go there. It is not instinctively and otherwise in support of removing the Privy Council as a final court. Yeah? If anything, it has been gingerly edging towards a CCJ. And here we are now learning this morning that that particular matter may have to go to the people, while there's a view, yes, that it's up to the executive and the political leadership to decide. But the JLP and Prime Minister Holness are of the view that the people must have a say in that. And the PNP is of the view that no, the two political parties, the two leaders, agree and get it done. But if there's a continuing deadlock, it would seem to me that the people may have to decide. Yeah? And that is going to come with its own set of issues. When you go to a referendum, what is on the ballot is not what is usually adjudicated in the public discourse. People are going to use other things. Yeah? So we are in a sticky place. Time for the break, because after the break, Minister Chuck went further yesterday in that interview, saying that he supports calls for the Integrity Commission to be entrenched in the Constitution as well.
My hands were steady, my eyes were clear and bright.
Fears Delroy Chuck yesterday on Nationwide at 5. He says he supports calls for the Integrity Commission to be entrenched in the Constitution.
I have no difficulty in having the Integrity Commission entrenching it. I have no doubt that the legislation which is now before Parliament needs serious adjustment. I have no doubt that the committee is considering it now, the Joint Select Committee,
yes,
that we will have some proposal to strengthen the Integrity Commission, but also to ensure that it acts in a manner that is appropriate without destroying the reputation of persons.
According to Minister Chuck, the so-called gag clause in the Act governing the Integrity Commission requires strengthening.
You don't talk about investigation in any of your reports and that you're investigating 6 or 8 members. Say investigation continues. For instance, you have a situation where they put out an annual report and say 6, then 8 persons are being investigated, and you have speculation all over the place. Stop talking about investigation. Do your investigation and then report.
So you're looking to strengthen the gag clause?
No, yes, so that you don't talk about investigation. Just do your investigation and then report.
That's Delroy Chuck speaking with Ricardo Brooks here on Nationwide at 5 yesterday afternoon. Well, a lot more to discuss on that matter. Now, the Health Minister, Dr. Christopher Tufton, was on his feet for several minutes in the Parliament yesterday. And at that parliamentary sitting yesterday, we got a fair insight, glimpse of what's ahead in the life of this Parliament. The increased numbers on the opposition benches and how they're going to use their increased numbers to probe and to challenge and to hold the government to account. We saw that beginning to take shape from that sitting yesterday. And the matter of public health and the provision of services under public health is clearly going to be a real contest, a challenge. Yesterday, we saw it when the Health Minister, Christopher Tufton, was challenged by the opposition spokesman on health, Dr. Alfred Dawes. So much so that Tufton, in one of those exchanges, shot back at Dawes, telling, listen, the elections are over, but he seems hell-bent on starting his training early for the next one due in 5 years. The background to it? Yesterday, Tuesday, Dr. Tufton gave an update to Parliament on the national situation concerning dengue fever. And he also reacted to Dr. Dawes' line of questions during his presentation. Here's Shalois Michael's report.
The health minister in his statement told Parliament on Tuesday that the government remains alert to a potential outbreak of dengue fever. This is despite what he describes as a lower than expected number of cases so far this year. But opposition spokesman Dr. Alfred Dawes found the minister's address inadequate. He expressed shock that the dengue update was all the minister felt necessary to address in Parliament, given what he described as a week of alarming revelations within the health sector.
There are questions hovering around about an Integrity Commission report. There are questions as to how we are really dealing with mental health in Jamaica and the renaming and rebranding of a hospital that has leaking wards, overcrowded patients, and no capital budget for about 5 years coming from the Ministry of Health. With previous announcements about destigmatization going back as far as from 2019 by the Honourable Minister, where residents are not growing their food at the Bellevue Hospital because of therapy, but because of sustenance, because the food budget has been cut.
According to Dr. Dawes, Minister Tufton continues to deflect from the real problems bedeviling his portfolio.
What has happened over the last week is that the Honourable Minister has been on a media tour deflecting from what is pertinent, his management of the Ministry of Health and Wellness. And we are seeing where announcements are made that the delay at the Cornwall Regional Hospital will not be as great as it was predicted to be. We are seeing about where the Children's Hospital is going to be delayed. This is a pattern of no accountability and deflection, denying involvement, and then defamation of anyone who dares to criticize the Honourable Minister.
However, the health minister hit back. After an interjection from House Speaker Juliet Holness, he urged Dr. Dawes to stop campaigning as the general election is over.
To the member who raised the other issues, I'm not sure if it was a question or a statement. You know,
Statement by ministers. Minister, I hope you stick to the statement.
It is a statement.
Because as much as I allow the opposition member to go on and speak about other things other than the statement, in the strictest appreciation of the standing orders, it should not be so. And I hope we do not descend into that type of an arrangement. Member, if Minister, if you're finished answering the questions from the member, then I would like to know.
Madam, if you will indulge me just for one line to say that the members seem to be practicing for the next general election. This election is done, the people have spoken, and we're on this side.
Shalois Michael for Nationwide News.
Brace for it, more is to come on this. Yeah? The jousting between Tufton and Dawes. It started before Dawes entered the Parliament, and it's going to continue. Yes? 26 minutes after 10. Fraudulent contracts, fake employment, and bogus invoices. Fraudulent contracts, fake employment, bogus invoices are just a few of the allegations the prosecution has outlined in the multi-million-dollar fraud case against former Education Minister Ruel Reid, former president of the former president of the Caribbean Maritime University, CMU. The trial is set to begin tomorrow morning in the Kingston and St. Andrew Parish Court. Or the trial has begun. They're set to begin hearing evidence tomorrow morning. And this case is gripping public attention because a former cabinet minister is involved. A former president of a university is involved. Here's Roby Williams' report.
The Crown has outlined what it describes as a wide-ranging scheme to allegedly defraud the government of more than $25 million. Lead prosecutor Ashtel Steele told the court the alleged conspiracy took place between 2016 and 2019. Among the key allegations are that a domestic helper who worked at the Reid's family home was unknowingly placed on the Education Ministry's payroll. The prosecution alleged Ruel Reid, along with his wife Sharon and daughter Cheryl, arranged for the helper to be paid by the ministry. They reportedly helped her open a bank account and kept her ATM card to access the funds. Prosecutors say this was part of a larger operation involving Reid, Pinnock, and Jamaica Labour Party councillor Kim Brown Lawrence. Brown Lawrence is alleged to have conspired with others to divert public money from both the Education Ministry and the CMU. The Crown says it intends to show that some individuals were paid by the CMU for work they never performed and that false invoices and vouchers were generated to facilitate the payments. Professor Pinnock is accused of authorizing the fraudulent documents, while Brown Lawrence is alleged to have received money she knew or should have known was obtained illegally. The Crown told the court that it intends to rely on banking records, text messages, and testimony to trace the flow of funds into accounts controlled by the accused. Prosecutors plan to call 92 witnesses during the trial. All 5 accused are facing several counts, including breaches of the Corruption Prevention Act, conspiracy to defraud, misconduct in public office, and breaches of the Proceeds of Crime Act. Robian Williams for Nationwide News.
Thank you, Robian. So that's another court matter that we'll be following closely for you. There's another one that is looming as well, that is also attracting a lot of attention. It's the one pitting a senior superintendent of police, Wayne Cameron, against the Commissioner of Police, Kevin Blake. Yes. Well, in that matter, it is in the courts and the statements are being filed with the court. Well, the police commissioner filed his affidavit, and in that affidavit from the commissioner, he describes Senior Superintendent Cameron as a history-making disruptor who acts as if he, and not the police commissioner, is in ultimate charge of the force. The affidavit, of course, of the commissioner, Dr. Kevin Blake, is in response to a filing by SSP Cameron, who is disputing the authority of Dr. Blake to order him to vacate his position as chairman of the Police Officers Association, the POA. Yeah? Shaloy Smegler has been reading the police commissioner's affidavit.
In the affidavit, Commissioner Blake sought to explain that problems emerged after a meeting with SSP Cameron on June 5, 2024, concerning his future in the JCF. He says SSP Cameron was set to receive a promotion to Assistant Commissioner ACP and assume command of the Border Security Branch. Commissioner Blake says even though SSP Cameron had 2 investigations hanging over his head, both of which were being handled by the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions, he still saw reason to promote him to ACP. This promotion, he says, was a contingent on SSP Cameron working alongside ACP Marlon Nesbeth and fulfilling a set of tasks over a 10-month period. The police chief says despite the clear directive, SSP Cameron not only failed to fulfill his tasks, but objected to working with someone he said was beneath his rank. Instead, he proceeded on 50 days vacation leave. Immediately after those 50 days expired, Commissioner Blake says SSP Cameron then proceeded on 8 days sick leave without informing his commanding officer. Following that incident, Dr. Blake says SSP Cameron was informed he would be transferred to the Area 5 Police Headquarters to serve as administrative officer effective January 2025. He says SSP Cameron blatantly defied that directive, declaring he would not report to a junior. Dr. Blake says SSP Cameron then absented himself from duty for 16 days without lawful reason. The police chief says at a point in time, nobody in the JCF knew where SSP Cameron was. He says 2 letters were dispatched to SSP Cameron to query his whereabouts. In response, Cameron said he rejected the transfer to Area 5 and, quote, expected the decision to be revisited, end quote. Dr. Blake says based on his checks, it's the first time in the 157-year history of the JCF that a gazetted officer has refused to comply with an assignment issued by a police commissioner. With regards to his leadership of the POA, Commissioner Blake says SSP Cameron failed to hold annual general meetings as scheduled despite repeated requests. The last meeting was held in 2022. In the affidavit, Commissioner Blake says there are ongoing investigations into how funds taken monthly from the salaries of officers of the JCF and deposited into the POA's bank account have been managed. He says the investigations were prompted after SSP Cameron failed to relinquish control of the accounts to executive members of the POA. He says SSP Cameron is the only person with access to those POA bank accounts, which are currently under investigation. Nationwide News did contact Commissioner Blake. He refused to comment, saying he would not answer questions about a document that his legal team has not made public. Shaloy Smichael for Nationwide News.
Thank you, Shaloy Smichael. And of course, this is an affidavit. Yes, we are going to reserve commentary because it's a matter that is before the courts. It's sub judice. So we'll bring you up to speed with what is happening, but don't expect me to comment beyond what is reported. All right? Time for the break. After